It was 4:15 a.m. in the morning, and I was driving home from my graveyard shift at the warehouse. A grueling 8-hour shift with management that would berate you even for closing your eyes for a millisecond. For the past couple of months, I've been playing ping pong with my sleep schedule. Some would think to try to find work locally or work remotely, but in my case, work was 50 plus miles away. Cold breeze blasting through my face and 93.1 Jack FM on full volume, I was struggling to stay awake. 23 and living on my own, this was the only way I saw to make ends meet. My eyes fluttered between dream and pavement before rudely being awoken by my tires grinding the rocks and the sight of me nearly hitting a tree. With a spike of adrenaline, I regained my composure and regained control of the road. As I pulled off to the side of the road, I tried to steady my nerves, and just for a brief moment, just closed my eyes. My face was then illuminated by the call from my dashboard. Josie. Hey, hun. How are you? You almost back? Uh, I've been better. I nearly became roadkill, and this job is freaking killing me. My gosh, are you alright? Yeah, yep, been better. I'll be fine. But you know what I can really use? What is it? A Budweiser. You always say that. Well, is there any place you can pull off and just get a quick shut-eye? I still don't really know this road too well, but tell you what, babe, my phone is nearly dead. I'll give you a text when I reach someplace or when I'm back home, alright? Alright, sounds good. Love you. Love you too. As I opened my eyes, I decided to try to find a motel or a place to stop at. As I continued along the road, I spotted a motel, the RedVine Motel. Hmm. I've never heard of this company or this motel before, but I was too tired to really care or even give it a notice. As I got out the car, a sense of unease and dread washed over me. I quickly looked around my surroundings and nothing seemed amiss. Shrugging off my unease, I just chalked it up to my lack of rest. As I entered the motel, I was greeted with flickering lights, 70s era setup, papers, pencils, and furniture that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Hello? I'm looking to stay for a couple of nights. Is anybody here? All I got in response was the humming of the overhead lights. My next choice of actions would have you question my sanity and my street smarts. I left the money on the counter, signed myself in, grabbed the room key, and went to find a room. As I walked up the stairs, that sense of dread and unease came back, much stronger this time. I instinctively turned around, and what I saw made my heart skip a beat. Across the other side of the building, a pair of eyes were looking at me from the blinds of the opposite window. Now, normally, you wouldn't be able to see eyes leering at you at this time of the morning, with very little sunlight or no illumination at all. But I can see these eyes clearly. And what unsettled me about these eyes were the size of the irises. The irises were pinpricks surrounded by a sea of white. As I was locked in a stare down with this strange being, my phone pinged. Josie, love you so much, get home safe, heart emojis. Not even looking away for a second, the person was now looking at me through the crack of his door. I could not quite discern his or her features, but the hell if I was going to try to. I slammed my door and I went inside my room. As I caught my breath, I let logical reasoning take control. This probably was some drifter or druggie, I thought. I tested the door handle, and thankfully the door clicked with a satisfying lock. As I explored the room, I noticed more and more how slightly disheveled this whole place was. On the side of the drawer was food, or what used to be food, covered in mold and dried maggots. My nose wrinkled at the sight, and I suppressed an urge to vomit. The bed sheets were faded yellow, with flecks of dust here and there. I knew damn well I was not going to sleep on these sheets, especially with my allergies. Thankfully, I had a jacket that was way too big, and I would just use it as a spread to lie on. As I surveyed the room, I noticed some more other things, other personal affects: a watch, a wallet, a pair of aviator glasses. Looking at the cupboard, I noticed more wallets, purse, and miscellaneous things. As I looked closer, I noticed that there were a bunch of IDs. What kind of caught my attention about these IDs were all the pictures were distorted right around the faces. I read the names: Julian Roman, Abigail Hurst, Miranda Cortez, and so many other IDs. For whatever reason, my attention grew to Abigail Hurst. In my community, there was no other Hurst but my family, so this was odd to me. I turned to the seemingly broken wristwatch and thought to myself, hey, it's a Rolex. If I can get this fixed, it'll probably give me a good couple of dollars. What else I noticed that was kind of weird and seemingly an odd coincidence was the time it read on the Rolex. 5:55 a.m. Huh, that's what time it is right now. As I sat up, I took a quick nap. Before I wanted to take a quick nap, I first wanted to see if there was a power outlet to charge my phone. As I looked back up at the wristwatch, I furrowed my brow in confusion. The wristwatch now read 6:16 a.m. What the hell? I looked closely and surveyed the watch. The hands were not moving, and I could not hear the telltale signs of gears turning. I don't know why, but I felt that sense of dread again. A long exhale came from the other side of the door. Looking at the door, I froze. Something told me not to move, but I did. I approached the door and looked through the pier. Nothing. I sank back into bed and shut my eyes. Bang! 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 I shot up from the bed. Who's there? You better quit messing around. My voice sounded feeble and full of false bravado. I slowly approached and unlocked the door and scanned the surroundings. The door opposite of mine was now wide open. Despite visible daylight, inside was pitch black. This time, I heard the exhale, not in front, but from behind me. I slowly turned around, and what I saw gives me nightmares till this day. I saw a dark, lanky shadow by the entrance of my closet. When I looked closely at it, I felt as if my whole body was plunged into the sea. Its skin was tattered, peeling, putrid, with pus and exposed rotted muscle. The hands were all the way reaching to the floor. The more I studied this thing, the more unholy I noticed it really was. The arms were bent at inhumane and odd angles. Instead of the 5 digits that would normally be on a human being, this thing had 10 on each hand. The stench emanating off this creature was, if I were to say awful, that would be an understatement. The stench was of decay, sulfur, and something sickly sweet. And the face, dear God, face, two sunken pits where the eyes should be, with pinpoint iris staring daggers at me. Have you ever seen the way a chameleon shifts its eyes? This thing was shifting its eyes back and forth, just like a chameleon. It had a flat nose, which was nothing more than a bump, with blood and a black viscous mucus running down its surface. The teeth were decayed, stained brown, and it had the most wicked and malevolent grin I've ever seen a creature make. The figure lunged at me, sending me into an adrenaline frenzy. As I ran down the stairs, this thing bounded at me with all fours. The creature emitted a high-pitched screech. As I drew near the car, all dexterity went out the window. Dropping the keys, I cursed myself out loud at my stupidity and my carelessness. Finally finding the keys, I started up the ignition and floored it out of that place. As I looked back, confusion slowly crept in my mind. I looked at my rear mirror, and all that was left of the seemingly ordinary hotel was a burnt out husk. All that was on my mind was just getting the hell out of there. As I hit 95 miles per hour, I was greeted by the red and blue lights of the highway patrol. Under normal circumstance, I would be sweating bullets, but in this instance, I was just relieved to be in the presence of another human being. Hello, sir. Do you realize how fast you were going? I stammered. Sorry, officer. I gotta get out of here. Someone is chasing me. I gotta go. Uh, sir, I haven't seen anybody else on this stretch of road. Are you alright, sir? I swear, I saw someone. Alright, sir. If you'd like, I can follow you back to wherever you need to go. But first, can I please see your license and registration, please? Again, under normal circumstance, I would be having an attitude, but I was just happy that there was someone else around. Where are you coming from, by the way? I was on my way to work and I just wanted to take a pit stop by this motel. The officer stopped riding. What motel? Uh, it was called the RedVine Motel. As soon as I uttered those words, the officer's face became ashen white. You have a good day, sir. Wait, aren't you gonna... Before I got a chance to say anything else, the officer was already gone. As soon as I made it back home, I collapsed into the bed and fell asleep. I found myself driving on the dilapidated freeway. I drove throughout Kansas and I did not recognize what route this was. I checked my phone GPS and I noticed that there was a second car following me, right behind me. A second icon. I've seen my share of glitches, but this one was eerily bizarre and unsettling. I tried to type in my home destination, but I could not interact with the screen. The time read 6:16 a.m. A huge pit grew in my stomach. I instinctively put my foot to the accelerator, scanning left and scanning right to see if I could spot an exit route. As I drove alongside the road, I noticed some broken glass and debris, then pieces of a ladder, torn upholstery, some springs. My eyes then widened in horror as I started seeing specks of dried blood and brain matter. As I drew past the carnage, it became more and more graphic. Bodies laying out the sides of the windows of the cars. Some looked like they had been dead for a couple hours. Some looked like they had been dead for years. Some were mangled beyond recognition, and some were partially or fully intact. As I approached, I realized that one of the cars was the police car. Looking closer, I realized that it's the same police car that had pulled me over. The vehicle was smashed beyond recognition. The semi had struck the vehicle against a side rail. As I approached the driver's side, I was greeted by absolute carnage. His body was contorted in all angles. What chilled me to the core was the sunken eyes of the officer, those same pinpoint irises, those eyes. Without warning, the officer started screeching, followed by the screeching coming from other bodies in wrecked vehicles. All the limbs and all the body parts started to undulate. The officer grabbed me by the wrist. I shot up from my bed in a cold sweat. Looking around, I realized that I was in a hospital bed. What the hell? Oh, babe, you're awake. Thank God. Where am I? You're in the hospital. The hospital? What? Calm down, babe. It's okay. Your car was found in the side of the road. You hit a tree and had passed out. Thankfully, a passenger called for help. Damn it. How's the car? Totaled. Great. Hey, babe, what was with that wristwatch that you were wearing? It looked very weird. My heart plummeted. I wasn't wearing it. I wasn't wearing a wristwatch. It was in the belongings that was brought in. Doctor, can I take a look at the wristwatch? As soon as I saw the watch, I nearly passed out. What's wrong, hun? About a month after the accident, life resumed normalcy, or so I thought. It all started on Monday. Thankfully, during this time, I had found a new job at my friend's dad's dealership. My dreams that I had been having were all terrifyingly real. In my dream, I was driving to work and spotted a car that looked beyond functionality. The front end was smashed beyond recognition. The oil was leaking out of the hood, and smoke and flames were billowing from that hood and exhaust. What caught my attention was the sticker decal. The sticker was from a prize event from Comic-Con that me and my friend attended 5 years ago. Only 5 people had won that sticker, and the sticker was on a car that closely resembled the one my friend had been driving. I was hoping, I was praying that it wouldn't be him. The hand with the Bandai Namco logo confirmed my fears. Lying smashed between the console and the driver's seat was my friend Ronnie. His head was split open like a coconut, with gray matter and viscera leaking out. His body was convulsing violently. I rushed over in a futile attempt to try to free him and offer him assistance. As I tried to free him, a black Sludge-like substance started to leak out of his iris, nostrils, and mouth. I instinctively leaped back. This was not blood. As I watched the pool of black sludge begin to undulate, I noticed that it started to take form. My heart dropped as soon as I saw what the form had taken. It took in the form of the creature that had chased me through that motel. Before I had the chance to react, the creature struck me across the chest with its mangled hand, shooting hot streaks of pain. Nearly hitting my head on the dresser, I was now fully awake. It was another nightmare, but strangely, my chest was still in pain. Shaking off the cobwebs, I lumbered to the bathroom. As I pulled up my shirt, I nearly screamed. A 10-finger digit handprint was now on my chest. All logic and explanation was out the window, but I refused to believe what I was seeing. A allergic reaction, a scar. I was grasping at straws. With all this hectic nightmares and rude awakenings, I thankfully had enough time to prep and go to work. This was when all hell broke loose. It started off as something that would lurk in my peripheral vision. I chalked it up to nothing at first. Then it gradually became a dark shadow that would appear off random locations. Well, it seemed random at first. Whenever I saw this figure, I would make a mental note on where I would see it. The puzzles started to fit together only 5 weeks later when I suffered heartbreak. I was driving home from work and I got a phone call from Ronnie's mother. Hello? What? When I got the news, I had to pull off to the side of the road to gain my composure. My friend Ronnie, 20 years, had died in a violent car accident. To say those 5 to 6 weeks were one of the hardest of my life is an understatement. At the time, I was thankful that I did not witness or see the grisly details. But in the 20th century, information spreads, and one of the local officers, or I don't know who, had taken a picture of the car accident. And unfortunately for myself, I was one of the many that had seen it. The picture closely, nearly mirrored the dream that I had of what happened to my friend. As his funeral commenced, I wanted to say my goodbyes and my apologies. I saw Ronnie's mother. Her eyes were red with hours and days of weeping. I admired her strength. Even with everything going on, she had the strength to smile and embrace me in a warm but solemn hug. Thank you for coming, Anthony. I swallowed, the raw emotion bubbling in the surface. I wouldn't miss this for the world, Mrs. Sellers. My eyes shifted to Ronnie's father, looking at the window. A single tear streamed down his cheek. All my New Years, I've known Ronnie's father. Since the age of 5, I've never seen him cry or crack under any pressure. It was surreal to see him this way. As I approached Mr. Summers, he said, "Oh, sorry. Hey, hey, Anthony." He ruffled my hair and gave me a firm hug. "I'm sorry, Mr. Summers. No, no, son. Don't apologize. A father's duty is to protect his children and take any troubles they have in all seriousness. I failed my son. I didn't realize how troubled he was during these last few weeks." My eyes narrowed. I had seen Ronnie only a month prior. The time I saw him, he seemed in great spirits. "What do you mean, Mr. Summers? What what was bothering him?" He said that some person, all dark, was following him around while he would drive. He had two fender benders. It, when he told me that some person had been following him, to me, it sounded absurd. I should have taken him serious. His father's voice became more shaky and more ragged as he talked. My heart started leaping out my chest. His father left a lot out, but I knew who, no, I knew what he was talking about. I couldn't quite put all the puzzles together, but I knew that that black figure was tied back to that motel and to that dreaded night. As everybody had left, I went up to his casket. The embalmer had did a fantastic job in restoring his body, but I could still see telltale signs of trauma. Cleared the throat. "I'm sorry, Ronnie." I held down a sob as all the years together started playing in my mind. I was never a religious person, but I had made a silent prayer. When I opened my eyes, black fluid was leaking out of his nostrils, earlobes, and other parts of his body. I screamed in horror, leaping back. I rubbed my eyes and I looked again. Nothing. Josie entered the altar. "You okay?" "Well, no. I will be though. Let's go. We can get something on our way back." "It's alright, babe. I'll just walk. I don't live too far anyway. I just need I just need to sort my thoughts." "Okay." As I watched my girlfriend pull out of the driveway, I saw it again, standing at the corner of the street. Its gaze locked with mine. In the few seconds it took for a car to pass, it was gone, as suddenly as it had appeared. A year had passed, and my life was now spiraling out of me. Death was an ever constant. I found myself in the hospital with minor scars, while my mom's side of the family had all died in the crash. My memory was fuzzy, but all I had remembered was the brakes failing and the SUV veering off the road. I was hanging upside down. Although one of my eyes was swollen shut, I could see enough mangled bodies and the smell of engine oil. Two black pinpoints surrounded by a sea of light looking at me. The smell of rotten meat and sulfur permeated my nose. A couple weeks later, my girlfriend died in a violent freeway pileup. I was at my breaking point and at the border of sanity. My strength during the time was my father. I was never one to show my emotions. My father knew that very well. I was sitting at my childhood porch looking at the rain, hoping that it will reveal to me some answer. Hey, sport, you want a Coca-Cola? No thanks, Dad. He pulled up a chair and sat beside me. How have you been, son? How have you been holding up? I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know, Dad. Things just don't make sense anymore. I've been seeing things. Each time I see these things, all that follow afterward is just nothing but death. What have you been seeing, son? Ugh, what's the point? You wouldn't believe me. Maybe not, but it would be much better just to get it off your chest, don't you think? I promise I'll always give it to you straight. I love you, Anthony, and I always will be there for you, son. My eyes watered and I threw my arms around my dad. It felt like I was 12 again. At that moment, at that day, my mother had died from cancer, with nothing but my dad and I comforting each other. As I told my dad everything that had happened to me, his face grew more and more serious. A sense of understanding and that of fear were etched on his face. So, you've seen it. Wait, what do you mean? You believe me? Yeah. Well, get comfortable. This is gonna be a long one. The person or the entity that you saw is known as the Highwayman, or some would like to call him the Highwaymonger. The Highwaymonger? What? He was a serial killer that would lure people to the motel, and then he would kill and torture them. Each time an investigation was done, nothing had ever been found. Wait. How do you know all this? Because me and your auntie had visited that place. I kept watch while she went inside. Wait. I have an aunt? Yes. What's her name? A sense of unease and dread washed upon me. Her name was Abigail. Full name, Abigail Lincoln Hurst. My heart had dropped at the revelation. When we came to motel, we wanted to see if the rumors were true. Maybe, you know, take pictures. We were just stupid kids. We should have known better. Coupled with the fact that it was Halloween. When my sister went inside, she had seen the secret torture chamber and other miscellaneous things. IDs, belongings, and other things that belonged to other people. I saw the man then chase her through the building. We had barely got away. She had leapt from the edge of the storm drain. The monger, however, had fell through the first story window. We never knew if he had survived or not, but I knew deep down that he hadn't. A couple months later, the building had burned down mysteriously. We thought it was the end of that. Police never found anything suspicious or noteworthy. My sister knew that there was more, more that could uncover what had happened to all those missing people, but she was too afraid to go to them. We were too afraid. We had thought that we would go to prison for the rest of our lives. My father chuckled dryly. If we would have told them what we saw in that building, that place probably would have been demolished. My dad took a long pause. Even I had an aunt. The reason being is that she promised family that we wouldn't mention her to you. She felt if we did, that you would be cursed. So, what happened to Aunt Abigail? My father had a 1,000 yard stare. Ever since that day, a trail of death had followed her around. Anyone who drove with her or alongside her had died a violent death. Just, just like me. She had noticed that her driver's license had turned a faded tint and that around her license, her face started to become distorted. Son, when's the last time you properly looked at your driver's license? As I got out my driver's license, I noticed that it started to become discolored. My face had started to become distorted. I shuddered. Your aunt, she tried to break the curse by getting a new ID. Each time she would get a new ID, that same thing would happen. It would become distorted. So she decided to go back to the motel and try to figure out how to break the curse. She went in and she never came out. I tried calling the police, but they couldn't, or they didn't want to enter that building. All these years later, I blame myself, but I'm going to set this right here and now. What do you mean? I'm going to do what we should have done all those years ago. I'm going to burn down that damn building until there's nothing left. I'm coming with you, Dad. Son, this is something that we need to do this together, Dad. I'm not going to let you face this alone. Alright, but you follow my lead. Understood? As we approached the motel, that sense of dread and unease came back. This time, it was accompanied by a sense of hatred and unbridled fury. Alright, son, I haven't been quite honest with you. We're not just here to burn down this building. We're here to burn his remains. What do you mean, remains? So, when I came here last, I was trying to find your sister, and when I stumbled upon the basement, I saw a placard, and that placard had the name of the highway monger. So, he is buried in this building. We have to unearth his remains, and we have to burn it alongside the building. This is crazy, Dad. Son, if you can't do this, just wait in the car, alright? You don't have to. No, I will do it, alright? I'm not leaving you alone with this thing, alright? We gotta be quick, and we gotta be vigilant, because more than likely, it's going to try to stop us. As we entered the motel, we saw a pair of eyes leering at us. This time, I didn't feel that sense of dread. I felt a sense of familiarity. But before I could process this, the eyes were gone. Dad, where do we go? Alright, if we go deeper down the stairs, we're gonna see that there's a boiler room. You see that room handle? Yeah, what about it? Tilt it to the side. As I tilted it to the side, a passageway opened around the floor, revealing stairs that lead deep down. Before we could continue further, the dark entity leapt and struck me across the chest, leaving me gasping for air. Son, are you okay? Before my dad could approach me, the entity had grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, and I saw 10 digits grasping along his throat. Before I could do anything, I was knocked again alongside the wall, leaving a nasty gash. Dad! I tried to stammer and I tried to get back up. Tried to do my best just to protect my father. Don't worry about me. Get there and do what you need to do. I looked back at my dad and looked back at the passageway. As I neared the end of the steps, I saw the gravestone. I unpacked the shovel from my backpack and I started digging. As I was digging, my shovel struck something. I grabbed the tools and I unearthed the coffin, or what was left of the coffin, revealing nothing but bones. Dad, I got it. I rushed up the stairs and I saw him laying in a pool of blood. My heart sank as I ran towards him and I felt for a pulse. Thankfully, he still had a pulse and he was still alive and breathing, but only shallow breaths. So he regained consciousness and was able to shuffle. As we were heading up the stairs, we were greeted by the entity. The entity ran at me on all fours and nearly missed the both of us. As it tumbled down the stairs, we tried to shut the door closed, but the entity busted out. The entrance was nearly a couple of steps away. As we were almost out the door, the entity grabbed my dad's leg with its claws. My dad screamed in pain, and we had thought that our lives would be over. But at that moment, something else had lurched onto the entity. When I looked up, I saw someone that had closely resembled my dad, holding onto the entity by its neck. Go! The figure said, and we ran out the front door, and my dad was barely conscious. He looked at me with a determined look. That's his place. Gasoline invited. You don't forget to burn the remains as well. If you don't burn the remains, it will still follow you. Alright, Dad. Just wait in the car. I'll take care of it. You be careful, My dad then lost consciousness. As I approached the building, I opened the door, doused the remains in gasoline, lit it up. The building slowly but surely caught fire. As I went back to the car, I heard the screech of the highway man. Its angry squeals of pain and rage. As we pulled out of the driveway, I saw another entity in the motel, near the motel entrance. It was my aunt, the one I had seen vaguely in the IV. She was now smiling. As firefighters came and put out the fire, an investigation was underway. 175 bodies were unearthed from that building. Among one those 175 was my aunt, Abigail Hurst. A huge weight was finally lifted off my shoulders, and I believe a huge weight had been lifted off of her spirit. We were now able to put all those people to rest, and ever since then, the sightings have stopped.